Welcome back to another edition of Rob's Wrestling Roundup. Now, this is a very interesting segment I've got for you today, as there has been quite a lot of stuff that's gone on since the last time I've discussed wrestling. Now, before I get started, the one thing I want to mention is with how long it's been since the last time I talked about wrestling, I'm going to be shifting how I do these a little bit, and I will now be doing them at the start and the end of the months. So within the first and last weeks of the month, you will hear what I've got to talk about for wrestling. But I do want to quickly shout out NWA, as they recently hosted their 2025 Crockett Cup, which was won by the Slimeballs, Sage Chance, and Tommy Rant. First of all, we had WrestleMania through until Saturday Night Main Event, which happened just yesterday of recording this. But through that, we got WWE's announcement that they bought AAA, and their subsequent announcement that they are doing Worlds Collide with NXT, AAA, and WWE superstars. And they've already announced El Grande Americana, Chad Gable, against El Hijo del Vikingo, which is just crazy considering just a few years ago he was wrestling Kenny Omega on AEW. Speaking of AEW, just to cover it real quickly, they passed WCW Nitro in the longest wrestling show on TNT, but moving on to the other WWE news, they've announced a very interesting project, which is WWE Unreal, and it's essentially an unveiling of the curtain and showing off what happens behind the scenes. It'll be really interesting to see how this will be shown off and how fans will receive this, because this is essentially shattering kayfabe, so I don't really understand why they'd ever want to do this. But I want to get back to the most important thing happening within wrestling, and that's basically John Cena making the most boring matches he could possibly do as a heel. And it's both entertaining and infuriating because he is trying to ruin wrestling. And part of that plan was almost costing Jey Uso the World Heavyweight Championship at the hands of Logan Paul. And I swear, if he had won that title, I don't even know if I would have been able to watch any more of it. But with all the returns and debuts happening, there's only one that I really want to talk about, and that's the Wyatt Six. They showed up kind of randomly at the end of SmackDown, but it was on the birthday of Bray Wyatt, Wyndham Rotunda, and they just tore apart the tag team division, and I'm at least glad that they are back in full force, and I really do hope that they have a plan for them. I really do hope that they have something to do, so that way they are on screen and they are seen by the public, because we need more Wyatt Six. Even if it's like Bray Wyatt during the Wyatt family faction, where he said everybody needs to go off and do their own thing. Have Rowan go after the Intercontinental Championship. Have Nikki Cross go after the Women's Championship. Have Dexter Lumis and Joe Gacy go after the tag titles. But to go back to John Cena's world title real quick, I just want to say his match with R-Truth was the most boring thing ever, which culminated in the return of Cody Rhodes, so I'm sure he's back to beat Cena, but again, I want it to be at the end of the year. The one thing I want to take note of, specifically on Monday Night Raw, is the story of Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman and the growth of the Vision. On Saturday Night Main Event, Bronson Reed returned and absolutely destroyed everyone, just like he always does, aligning himself with Rollins, Heyman, and Braun Breaker, and I couldn't think of a better power team to help Seth win the Money in the Bank briefcase, so he could finally win the World Heavyweight Championship, and then him and Gunther can go at it, and I think that would be absolutely beautiful to reestablish Gunther as a monster by having him throw around Bronson and Braun. But when it comes to wrestling, I think the most important note I want to make right now is the current age of women's wrestling is absolutely fantastic. From AEW, specifically with Timeless Toni Storm, I absolutely love her. She's my favorite wrestler right now. Not to mention stars like Mercedes Moné being the belt collector of AEW, Rhea Ripley being the most popular woman on the roster in WWE, and Lyra Valkyria proving to be a great breakout star as Intercontinental Champion, and Io Sky, the current Women's World Champion, and new recruits like Roxanne Perez and Julia. I am absolutely loving what WWE and Triple H is doing with their women's division. I'm just glad that Tiffany Stratton beat Charlotte Flair, honestly. I'm so glad that she finally lost. For once, Charlotte Flair had to bow down. Oh, and also, Trick Williams just defeated Joe Hendry at NXT Battleground to win the TNA Heavyweight title, which is the first time a TNA title has changed hands on a WWE show. And how can I forget the fact that Darby Allin climbed Mount Everest, so let's all hope he can climb the proverbial mountain of AEW and win the world title. And of course, after initially finishing recording my wrestling segment, AEW ran their Double or Nothing event. So just to cover the high points, Mercedes Moné won the Women's Owen Hart tournament, adding another belt to her collection and setting the stage for All In against timeless Toni Storm. And the greatest babyface in modern wrestling, Hangman Adam Page, won the Men's Owen Hart Cup tournament, which means he will face Jon Moxley at All In for the world title. Granted, as I said before, Darby is the one destined to dethrone the Mob Boss. Speaking of the Mob Boss, his Death Riders crew lost in Anarchy in the Arena against Team AEW, and best of all, Ricochet beat Mark Briscoe in an ambulance match, but the best part is the fact that he came out to the ring as Itachi from Naruto. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up a lot of the stuff going on in the wrestling world. Obviously, I didn't talk about everything because I want to implore everybody to go out of their way to watch as much wrestling as possible, and it is a beautiful art form, and anyone who has the courage to step into this squared circle and risk their life, my hats are off to you. Now that's just been some of the more rambunctious events happening within pro wrestling across this month and looking towards the next.